Sahana vavatu Sahanau bhunaktu Sahaviryam karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the Lord protect us. May He nourish us. May we acquire the capacity to study and understand the scriptures. May our study be brilliant and may we not cavil at each other. Om, peace, peace, peace unto us all. Dear brothers and sisters, loving Sai Ram to all of you. We welcome all of you for this online satsang of the Sri Sathya Sai Baba Center of Arcadia. And we are going to do the study circle on Sutra Vahini today. You know, probably we did about 6 weeks ago, about the end of April, because in between we had the wonderful celebration of Ishwarama Day and Buddha Purnima, and we did the study guide with reference to those festivals. And so now we are back to resuming Sutra Vahini. So just as for the sake of continuity, so this is one of the 3 compendiums, 3 guides for spiritual seekers of the Prasthana Trayam. Prasthana means journey. In spiritual journey, Traya means 3. 3 guides help us. What are those 3 guides? One is Bhagavad Gita, which Lord Krishna gave to Arjuna for the sake of the whole humanity. Second is Upanishads. There are 108 Upanishads. 10 are major Upanishads, contains the essence of jnana, which is Vedanta, it is called because the end of Vedas. And third is these Brahma Sutras. That is why these 3 are the ones which help in the process of spiritual progress and spiritual evolution. So these are also in the scriptures said, Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana. That means something which to be heard, and Manana, contemplation. Finally, Nididhyasana, put into practice, which is Bhagavad Gita, which is a practical application in daily life. So here the Brahma Sutras, so here the first one is Atato Brahma Jnasa. So everybody wants to be Brahma Jnani. We want, like we heard the story of the Shirdi Baba, that man wants in search of Brahma Jnana. And Baba says, you can't even give up 5 rupees. You have so much greed. How can you get Brahma Jnana? Similarly, here, we need to know the credentials, qualifications. We need to have Brahma Jnana. For anything in life, you want to get something, you need some credentials, qualifications. So here, he says, after this, Atato means after this, you can have Brahma Jnana. So here, the 4 things he talked about. One is Viveka. That means first we need to have discrimination. Vairagya, we need to have detachment. Third is Shat Sampadi, 6 virtues. Fourth is Mumukshatvam. That means intense longing for truth, intense longing for God, intense longing for liberation. These are the 4 things. So last time we talked about first step, Viveka, discrimination. That means try to discriminate between Nitya and Anitya. Is this true or that true? Is this permanent or that temporary? So always you need to discriminate, called Nitya, Anitya Vivekam. Always you need to discriminate. Is it something temporary? Is something permanent? So always God is permanent. God is eternal. So that means world is illusory and temporary. So always by discrimination, you try to first differentiate. Why is it necessary? For the next step, Vairagya. Once we know something is temporary and illusory, you get out of it and go to something which is eternal and permanent. That is the one which gives joy. Whenever you get attached to the temporary and worldly, we always will have bondage, grief, and disappointment. But something permanent which doesn't change, which is divinity, or you call Atma or Brahman, then you will be always in that stage of bliss. That is the reason we need to have the differentiation between the real and real. So once you know that, next step is Vairagya. That is the important step for a spiritual seeker. Vairagya means renunciation, detachment. You just get out of the unreal and focus to the real. So the greatest examples in the history is like Lord Rama. He knows truth is the highest. His father gave the word, so truth. So for the sake of truth, because that is the real, he didn't care for this kingdom. He didn't care for comforts. He didn't care for anything. So just he went on exile to the forest for 14 years. He went through all that hardships just because he knew the most important is adhere to the truth, not the other things which are temporary. So for that, you need to give up the lower one. The same thing with the Emperor Harishchandra. For the sake of truth, so he gave up his kingdom, he gave up his family, including his children, and he went and was a gatekeeper in the burial ground. That is how Mahatma Gandhi was inspired. So by watching the play on Emperor Harishchandra and knowing the story, that is why his autobiography is called My Experiments with Truth. So something lower we give for the higher. And same thing Lord Buddha, we talked about how in search of nirvana in the highest, he gave away his kingdom, he gave away his family and attachment. So whenever you are in search of the higher, you give the lower up. Even in daily life, when you see when you want to become a scientist or a doctor or a lawyer, anything. So when you are preparing, you give up your sleep, you give up your comforts, you put long hours. So even in the worldly achievements, you want to achieve, you have to forgo. Even in the sports, music, whatever you want to practice, you have to put a lot of intense effort and give the lower comforts for highest. And here we are talking about Brahmajnana, knowing which there is the ultimate, there is nothing more to be known. So Viveka we talked about, then second thing we talked about Vairagya. Third we are talking about is Shat Sampatti, that means 6 virtues, what we should develop. And last time we talked about, there are 6 of them. Last time we talked about the first one, Shama, that means mind control. And also we said, how Swami said, mind is the one which is responsible for liberation and bondage. So we need to, like give the example of a key. You turn to one side, it takes you towards the world, and the other side, which is locking, other side is unlocking, which you turn towards God, you get the joy and bliss. So that is what it is important to remember, how the mind should be full of good thoughts. The whole thing is Sat Sankalpam. The whole root, Swami said, it starts with the mind. So this mind, Swami said, there's three stages. First, we need to watch the mind. What is happening? Where are my thoughts going? Because always my mind is not only a monkey mind, it is a mad monkey which is drunk and somebody pinched it, jumping all over one time here. We can always watch, just let us do 10 minutes quiet sitting meditation. Just only one thought jumps around. That is why Swami says you can do that. People think they are in meditation for hours or samadhi. It is not possible. So just dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Just you can do it, concentration. That is why he said 11 seconds. You can think about me, I'll be in front of you. Shows how that intense one-pointedness not easy. So it is very important that we need to control this mind. First, you need to watch what is it doing. Once you watch the mind, you need to still the mind. Just do that. Then you finally you kill the mind. It knows mano nasha, they call it. Sounds cruel, but no, it means no thoughts, because even the good thoughts could be a source of bondage. So though it is better to neutralize the bad thought with good thoughts, ultimate is stage of no thoughts. We find the closest is in our deep sleep, no thoughts. So that is the thing we go through, and then we are in bliss. Even though we don't do any achieve during deep sleep, we said, oh, after the deep, oh, I was so blissful, because the stage where there is no agitation, even the dream, you will have that thoughts going, but in the deep sleep, nothing. So that is closest you can describe to understand stage of where you don't have thoughts, mind. So that is what we talked about last time. Now the next one is we will be starting on Dhamma. So by the way, we sent you this PDF guide which is attached. So in there it is page number 12 at the end. Whereas in the hard copy you have, so in different books, this book it is page 10, and another book it is page 9. So look at it, what you have. If you are following the PDF, so just it is on page 12 at the bottom. So we are going to start today on Dhamma.
Sai Ram, brothers and sisters. So, Sutra Vahini, chapter 1, Dhamma. By the way, if there are any questions, you may kindly put it in our chat on Zoom, and we'll try to address them if time permits. Body and sense control, Dhamma. Now for the second of the 6 virtues. Control of the body and senses can be achieved only by spiritual exercise sadhana and not by any other means. One has to avoid spending precious time in useless pursuits. One has to be ever vigilant. One has to engage the senses of perception and of action and the body in congenial but noble tasks to keep them busy. There should be no chance for sloth, tamas, to creep in, and every act must promote the good of others. While confining oneself to activities that reflect one's natural duties, swadharma, it is possible to sublimate them into spiritual practices for the body and the senses. Will you stop here, Dr.
Yeah.
Comments? Keep going.
No, just we'll stop it briefly because each, these 6 virtues, each one is a separate theme. First one is Shama, is the control of the mind. Now we are talking about the Dhamma, which is the control of the body and senses. That is why Swami beautifully said, he makes it everything simple, like a formula. So what the students mainly used to say, it is applicable to all of us because we are all the students in the spiritual path. Bend the body, mend the senses. Bend the body means not that hunch over or we are at the old age that it comes, we can all bend over. That's not what it is. Bend the body means bend the body in service of others. So that is what it is. So if you do that, then you get that humility and it purifies our heart. Doing service, bending the body and develops you humility and get rid of the ego and purification of the heart. And mend the senses. That means how you control. The whole thing is sense control. So actually in the chapter 6, Lord Krishna says Atma Samyama Yoga all talks about the control of the senses. Here Swami was talking organs of perception, organs of action. That means karmendriyas and jnanendriyas. Karmendriyas is hands, feet, and organs of action, organs of regeneration, all these things. So Swami says it should be used for good things. Like means when you want to use the hands, use it for serving others or worshiping the Lord. And you want to go the feet, he says, don't go to the lanes and some wrong places, movie houses, but use it, go to the temples or places of worship or places of good people, satsangs. That is what everything, and same thing with the organs of perception, eyes, hearing, and smell, and taste, and hands. That means see good, see no evil. Hear good, hear no evil. Speak good. So all these senses, whether organs of perception or action, that is jnanendriyas, karmendriyas, Swami says it should be used in noble tasks and keep them busy, because ideal mind is devil's workshop. So always it goes here and there. So first is Shama, we talked about mind control. Now Swami talked about control of the body and senses, like bend the body, mend the senses, and we said the end of mind. So these are all very practical, because always this is the one which drags us, and they all leave the impressions. Whenever we use the senses in a negative things, it pollutes our brain. Okay, so we can continue the next one.
Withdrawal from sensory objects, uparati. The third virtue is withdrawal from sensory objects. This implies a state of mind that is above and beyond all dualities that agitate and affect common people, such as joy and grief, liking and disliking, good and bad, praise and blame. But these universal experiences can be overcome or negated by means of spiritual exercises or intellectual inquiry. People can escape from these opposites and dualities and attain balance and stability. Withdrawal from sensory objects can be achieved while engaged in day-to-day living by avoiding entanglement with and bondage to differences and distinctions. One should free oneself from identification with castes like priest, Brahmana, protector, Kshatriya, businessman, Vaishya, and laborer, Sudra, or with family clans, or with conditions like boyhood, youth, adult, and old age, or with genders like masculine and feminine. When one succeeds in discarding these and is firmly established in the Atmic reality alone, one has really achieved withdrawal from sensory objects. Do not look at the world with a worldly eye. Look upon it with the eyes of Atma, as the projection of the Supreme Self, Paramatma. That can make one cross the horizon of dualities into the region of the One. The One is experienced as many because of the forms and names people have imposed on it. That is the result of the mind playing its game. Withdrawal from sensory objects promotes inner exploration, nivritti, not outer inquiry and activity, pravritti. Along inner exploration lies the path of intellectual inquiry, jnana. Along outer exploration lies the path of karma. The sacred activities like rituals and sacrifices that are laid down in the Vedas cannot confer liberation, moksha, from bondage to birth and death. They help only to cleanse the consciousness. It is said that they raise people to heaven, but heaven is also only a bond. It does not promise eternal freedom. The freedom that makes one aware of the truth, of one's own truth, can be gained only through listening to the Guru, Shravana, ruminating over what has been listened to, Manana, and meditating on its validity and significance, Nidhyasana. Only those who have detached their minds from desire can benefit from the Guru. Others cannot profit from guidance. Those who expect and look forward to the fruits of their actions can engage in them until their consciousness is cleansed. After that, their actions are of no value. So, one must be ever conscious of the Atma as pervading and penetrating everything, so that attraction and repulsion, the duality complex, have no effect. So in this section, I think that Swami is saying one of the most highest truths of all. It is the nature of the oneness. That the oneness can be imposed when we lose our maya or our delusion over the many. And he's pointing out that this is the next step, Uparati, third step to sense control. It's only after we control our senses that we can withdraw from sensory objects. And when we do, and in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna said the same thing, if you look at Sthita Prajna, that we lose the distinctions and it all becomes one, sama. The word samadhi, as Dr. Reddy mentioned last time, has two parts to it. Sama means equality, and dhi means your buddhi or your intellect. So when everything is one, then you do not see the differences in many. And Swami is pointing out that is the next step to that acquisition of these six qualities that we need.
So here you see that important thing Swami is telling, we all have this problem. So Uparati is going beyond liking and disliking, beyond good and bad. So you are always caught up this judgment, like we were talking about even the last week satsang. Here you see that everything, as soon as you say, oh, this is man, this is woman, you are telling, Swami saying, this is boy, this is young man, this is old man, this is sick. So mind judges, this is tall, this is short, this is rich, this is poor, this is beautiful, this is ugly. So as long as suddenly, because we see mostly the external thing. So Swami here is telling, you need to penetrate through that, like through the microscope. When something is there, microbes, you can see only through a microscope. And the telescope, you want to see the planets, you can see only telescope. Similarly, we all need a jnana scope. Through the jnana, you see that everything pervading is Atma, because we are all caught up in seeing these unreal things. So we are just caught up in that. As long as we have that, so then we will be agitated. So just you need to see beyond the physical, because these are all the things: gender, age, stage of life, brahmacharya and all that, whether it's a caste, whether you're a Kshatriya, Brahmin, Shudra, these are all nothing, not important. These are referable to the body, mind, intellect. But you need to go beyond and be in the Atmic consciousness. Then only he says we will be really bliss. That is what these great masters are like. It is a nice thing. In King Janaka, when he had the court, there was a great sage called Ashtavakra. Ashtavakra means 8 curves. That man has 8 curves. It is believed when he was in the mother's womb, he was listening to his father chanting Vedas. So every time his father chants wrong way, the intonation and thing, it turns like that. Another time he said, like that. So he went on doing poor guy. By the time he was born, he had 8 curves. So because of his father's chanting wrongly, but anyway, there is a big story how he gets rid of it by his father releasing the curse. So he just gets that things. So this man, but he's a great scholar. He's the greatest Advaitic master, great teacher. Even King Janaka used to respect him. So when he went to King Janaka's court, there was an assembly of people. As soon as we saw, they were all very great scholars in the King Janaka's court. As soon as he saw him, everybody, because he's bent all over, and then the way he was walking, people were laughing like anything. Hey, this. Then he, after everybody subsides, he said, "Oh, I thought I came to an assembly of scholars. I didn't know I came to a place of cobblers." You know, cobbler, when they want to make the shoes, they see the skin, whether it is right one to make the shoes. So you are looking at my body's, the skin and how I am look. You are not looking at that. And everybody gets shocked. King Janaka knows this is a man of great knowledge. He doesn't see the external. They see through and through. That is why, like Lord Rama, when he saw Shabari, he didn't see like a tribal lady. She saw her highest, greatest devotee. So because he saw devotion in her. And that's why she was one darshan of Lord Rama, she merged with him. Same thing, even birds, Jatayu, it's just a bird, but he gave a liberation. Even his own father, he could not give the final things when he was dying, but to the Jatayu, he gave that tirtham in his mouth. So this shows God doesn't look whether you are this or that. He looks at the pure heart, because he sees the Atma, how much pure-hearted you are. So the important thing is don't get bound by these externals. C3, as I said, conscious of the Atma as pervading and penetrating everything, so that how do we know? We don't have attraction, repulsion in everything. Oh, I like that person, I don't like that person. I like this situation, I don't like this situation. So in all of things, life is like, dislike. So more and more, less you have, the mind gets. That is the problem. Our agitation is because of the number of likes and dislikes we have. So by constantly practicing this spiritual practice of Uparati, so we will go beyond that, and then we will experience that Atmic consciousness, which is all pervading. That is Uparati. So we'll go to the next quality.
Next one, forbearance, titiksha. The fourth virtue, the attitude of forbearance, refuses to be affected or pained when afflicted with sorrow, loss, and the ingratitude and wickedness of others. In fact, one is happy and calm, for one knows that these are the results of one's own actions now recoiling on one, and one views those who cause the misery as friends and well-wishers. One does not retaliate or wish them ill. One bears all blows patiently and gladly. The natural reactions of people, whoever they may be, when someone injures them, is to injure them in return. When someone causes harm, to do harm. And when someone insults them, to insult back by some means or the other. But this is the characteristic of the worldly path, pravritti, the path of objective involvement. Those who seek the inner path of sublimation and purification, nivritti, have to avoid such reaction. Returning injury for injury, harm for harm, or insult for insult only adds to the karmic burden, which has to be endured and eliminated in future lives. This burden is termed impending, agami. One can't escape the task of undergoing the consequences of one's thought, word, and deed in due course. Paying evil for evil can never lighten the weight of karma. It will only become heavier. It might confer immediate relief and contentment, but it can only make the person suffer later. Forbearance, therefore, instructs people to do good to those who injured them. So this one is a great quality which we discussed last few weeks when we looked at the life of Lord Buddha, Gautama Buddha, who taught forbearance for everything and through action showed it also. Even Jesus said the same thing when he was asked, if somebody slaps you, what should you do? He said, turn the other cheek. But this is very hard to practice unless you're established in Jnana and you're following Swami's teachings as he has given it. So this is the fourth virtue that avoids our future impending karma. As we studied before, there are three types of karma: Sanchita karma, Prarabdha karma, and Agami karma. Agami karma is impending. If we do something bad, then it will recoil back with us. There are many stories in Siddhi Sai Satcharita where Baba talks about this coming back. It is not by some other's action or by some heavenly misfortune. It is just because of our own actions and our own things that we have done in the past that we have to pay for. This can, of course, be overcome through divine grace, but for us, it's best to avoid this through forbearance. And this is what Swami is pointing out, that do not retaliate, bear everything, it's for our own good in the long run.
So this titiksha or forbearance, all of us should read. Swami gave a whole discourse on that forbearance. It is there on our satsai.org website. Whenever there is a landmark discourse, we put them. It's one of the landmark discourse. Swami beautifully says, Kshama Satyam, Kshama Dharmam, Kshama Sarvasvam. He says, if we have Kshama, forbearance, it is truth, it is dharma, it is peace, it is everything. If we have forbearance, we have everything. That is why people are the great men of great or women of great character, nobility, they exercise that forbearance. And that it is more than there is another thing, forgiveness. With forbearance is even more than forgiveness. Forgiveness, you did something wrong, you forgive. But this is here, this willingly, joyfully accept. That is why Mother Kunti is the greatest example. She prays to Lord Krishna. Krishna, when I was in troubles, so I was always thinking about you, Krishna, Krishna, because they were going through so many troubles, the Pandavas went. She says, then one of the famous hymns of Kunti, Mother Kunti is, Lord, give me more troubles if I can think of me. Because most important for a spiritual seeker is what? Thinking about God. So anything makes you think about God is His grace. So when we have troubles, difficulties, we think more about God. We repeat God's name. We think about Him. What did I do? Try to keep. Anything which makes you think more about God, that is sign of grace. That means think that difficulties. And something which you think is God's grace, oh, I have comfortable life, I have good food, I have nice things, that going well, makes you forget God. That is God's grace is taken away from you. So important for us compared to the world is anything which makes us more think about God, takes to Him, that is His grace. Even though difficulties, as I said, classical example is Mother Kunti. She said, I'm able to think of you more during my trouble. So always can think. Whereas if you have, when comforts are going, everything going well like Kauravas, they forget about God. So that is what we had. Is it making me think more about God? Think more like people right now, COVID, a lot of problems. We are doing the Gayatri, Akhanda Gayatri, people all over praying. So that anything which makes you think about God, that is good. You know, all the great people, as we were talking about Jesus, how much, even in the cruise, when he was on the cross, he said, Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. He didn't curse them. And same thing with Buddha, when his own cousin, the Devadatta, was trying to kill him, harm him, he forgave him. And he said, if I love you as I love my own son, you will get up and walk. So this kind of people, they just completely forgive. Actually, there is a beautiful drama enacted in front of Swami a long time ago. There about his Maharashtra saint Eknath. So this guy, this great saint, was going to Ganges, going deep, and there are some rowdy boys. So as soon as he comes out, they spit on him. Again, he goes and does go it and dips in the Ganges, and does Gayatri, comes out, do that. This went on for almost 108 times or so many times. Then finally these people ran out of spirit and they got tired. This man is not saying anything, going and dipping him. He says they fell flat at his feet. Swami, please forgive. So we were bad and we really ask your forgiveness because we did the bad thing. They regretted. And he says, no, you did a favor to me. Usually I have only one time dip, go there and come and then go. Because of you, I had 108 times I could have the dip. So see that people of that big heart, magnanimity and forgiveness, because they're embodiments of love. They don't look. And here, whenever somebody is causing us, as Swami was telling, our natural eye for eye, tooth for tooth. So because we want to react, but there is a danger here. That is why Swami said there is a spiritual mathematics. Somebody, you do good, he says, oh, you did good, it cancels out. Because there is no, because already you did good, he recognized it. If somebody bad, you do bad, and somebody says, hey, you did a bad thing, scolds you, cancels out. But something, so you didn't do anything bad and somebody blames you. Oh, Narendra, you did this, you didn't do anything. You know that you didn't do anything. Then they are doing a favor to you. You will get one credit because all their good karma will come to you. Whatever bad karma you have will go to them. So they're doing a favor. That's why even Shri Sachirtha says it is like somebody licking your dirt and cleaning you up. So whenever it is, instead of getting agitated, hey, they are doing this, okay, they are taking my bad karma, and so whatever their good karma comes, so my karmic good karma balance will go up. Then second one, even spiritual mathematics, another thing is you do a good thing, you are actually helping somebody doing good, instead of appreciating and they're telling as if you have done bad, they will twist around. First point, if you didn't do anything, they blame you, then you get spiritual mathematics point +1. This is in the Mahabharata also. But you really doing good and somebody twists around saying you are doing bad, you will get +2 points. So we should not anything care. So you should satisfy the inner conscience, which is God. So that is what Swami says. That it's not easy, forbearance, but you watch the lives of these great saints, avatar. There's no avatar who didn't go through. Lord Rama, how much in the forest he has to be there and go through all the troubles. Because when they come, even the human form, like Swami, Shirdi Baba, you read any avatar or any saint, they go through that, show an example how we need to live the life of forbearance. So just we can have one more this Shraddha and then we can end thereafter.
Okay. Next, unwavering faith, Shraddha. The fifth among the virtues to be cultivated is unshakable, unwavering faith. Faith in the sacred scriptures, sastras, and the moral codes they contain, as well as in the Atma and the Guru. Faith is the sign of Shraddha. The scriptures are designed to ensure the peace and prosperity of the world and the spiritual perfection of humanity. They have before them this great aim. They show the way to its realization. So one must place faith in such holy scriptures, gurus, and elders. Gurus are indeed worth worshipping, for they show us the path of ultimate fulfillment, Shreya Marga. The Gurus, on their part, must instruct people only in, quote, the knowledge of the one Atma that is immanent in all beings, Sarva Jivatmaikat Jnana, unquote. The one who has unwavering faith will achieve this wisdom. The Gurus themselves must have full faith in it and live according to that faith without the slightest deviation. So here a couple of things come to mind. One is that Shirdi Baba always used to ask for dakshina 2 rupees when people came to him so that he could give it away in charity. And one of them was Shraddha, the other one was Saburi. So that shows the importance he placed in unwavering faith that we have. And in the Bhagavad Gita, as we have seen before, Lord Krishna says, Shraddhavan lavata jnanam. It's people who obtain this great knowledge of self-realization have to have faith. That is a essential quality. And Swami is again saying that the gurus play a great part in this because they show you the Shreya Marga, the path of the fulfillment, not the other worldly path. So this is the 5th of the 6 that we mentioned before.
Yeah, so this is Shraddha, and also called faith, and also called Vishwasa. Swami says this Vishwasa should be our Shwasa. Shwasa means breath. That means everyone should have faith. So without faith, he says it is like you are one without breath. You are equal to dead. So our faith, Vishwasa, should be our Swasa. So here, Swami was talking about what should have faith in. Faith in scriptures, because they are the revelations from God, particularly Vedas, Upanishads, and great saints. First, you should have faith in the scriptures. Second, faith in the Guru who has taught you the knowledge, who has shown you the path. And third, faith in God. So because he is the unchanging, eternal one. And most importantly, you should have faith in yourself. Self-confidence. That is most important faith. Yes, this is I can. This in this life, I have the guidance from this Guru, scriptures, so I can attain the highest. You should have that complete faith, confidence, because without faith, they say you cannot achieve. That is what we were talking about it in Lord Krishna says, the whole spiritual journey, one side is samshayatma vinashyati. That means man with doubts will perish. And the other shore is Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. So you travel from this shore where you don't have any faith to the other shore where you have complete faith. That is the whole journey. So to have that absolute faith. So we have absolute faith, as we are talking about Shirdi Baba, that is what he expected, even Swami. So you should have 2 things, like Swami says, stamp and address to reach God. One is Shraddha, another is Bhakti. Shraddha Bhakti. That is stamp is the faith, and Bhakti is the address. So you need to have both to reach the communication to God. So similarly, we need to develop that intense, complete faith. Whatever happens, we talked in many stories, Arjuna, and whatever Lord Krishna said, he said, right, the bird he saw, he said, oh, it is a dove, it is a crow, it is got a peacock. Whatever he said, yes, Master, it is true. He had complete faith in Lord Krishna's words. That is why he didn't have his own. He said, I believe in your words more than in my senses. That kind of faith. Swami said so, and the scripture so. We should have faith and proceed on the basis of that faith. So we'll conclude here and continue next week. Okay? Sai Ram.